You know how sometimes a story you thought was settled? Well, it just takes a sharp turn.
Yeah, reveals a whole new layer you didn't see coming.
Exactly. That's kind of what we're diving into today. We're looking deep into the latest with the Brown family, specifically Janelle Brown, finally really separating from Kody.
It's a situation lots of people know from Sister Wives, of course,
Hmm.
but it might look simple on the surface, like just a breakup, but the way it's affecting the whole former family structure,
Mm,
it's actually pretty significant.
totally. We're here to unpack that.
Understand the real depth of these changes.
Right. So, to get a grip on it, we've been digging into some transcripts, specifically from a YouTube video by Without a Crystal Ball.
Okay.
And our mission for this deep dive is to really get the weight of Janelle's latest actions, especially her moving out of Flagstaff for good and, the resolution around Coyote Pass.
That whole property saga.
Exactly. Even if you follow the show, we found some interesting details, some nuances that add a lot of context.
Yeah, we're not just rehashing headlines here. We want to analyze, what these events mean as they're happening. Give a real current picture of this, well, pretty complex situation.
Okay, let's get into it then. One of the first things that really jumped out at me was Janelle talking recently about consciously choosing plural marriage. Even now, with her kids mostly grown, that timing felt important. What do you make of that?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because she says she chooses it, but then right away she points out that, the heavy lifting of raising little kids in that system, that's over for her,
Right.
which suggests she's sort of reevaluating it based on where she is now. It's like a deliberate choice today, not just sticking with the old ways. And this time frame, it probably lines up with some of the big visible cracks starting to show in the family
Oh, okay.
that might have pushed her to really think about her own needs.
That makes sense. And then she mentions this, like powerful realization just in the last 18 months or so. Recognizing her own independence and and really not being willing to put up with mistreatment anymore. That feels huge after all those years.
It really does. A massive shift.
What do you think sparked that, like right then?
Well, if you look at the timeline, this period is when things really started falling apart publicly,
Yeah.
right? And Janelle was becoming more visibly autonomous.
Mm.
It seems like a time where she maybe started seeing her own value differently, setting firmer boundaries for herself, maybe see what happened with Christine, or just her own self-awareness growing.
Mm.
It probably all came together.
Which flows right into the next big thing, that whole drawn out mess with the crumbling empire, as the source called it.
Yeah, the Coyote Pass property negotiations. So complex.
It really sounds like Kody and Robyn's dominance, or whatever you want to call it, was weakening for a while.
Exactly. And for Janelle and Mary, this Coyote Pass thing just hung over them for ages. So much uncertainty.
Right.
The core issue was making sure the money, when the land eventually sells, gets split fairly, equally.
Yeah. That seems basic, but clearly wasn't simple here.
No. And this wasn't just about leaving the marriage. It was about securing their own financial future after putting years and presumably money into this shared thing. They're pushing for a fair split really shows them being more assertive, refusing to just be left out financially.
And then finally, the breakthrough. March 26. Robyn signed the deeds,
Yep, that was the key.
making Janelle and Mary officially 25% owners each, alongside Kody and Robyn. That must have been a huge weight off Janelle's shoulders. What was her risk before that was finalized?
Oh, it was critical. Absolute critical. Because now, legally, her investment is protected. She has a real documented stake.
Okay.
Before that, she didn't have that legal safety net. She was kind of depending on Cody's goodwill or decisions about the property.
It sounds precarious.
Totally.
Yeah.
So getting that legal recognition gave her the power, really, to fully detach from Flagstaff. She went from having maybe a verbal understanding to being a legal co-owner with rights. Big difference.
This source really highlights Janelle's worries about the money she put in, and Kody apparently believing it all belonged to him anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like she was genuinely scared of being left high and dry financially. Do you think Kody really saw it that way, or was it more about, like, control?
That's a really good question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It digs into those long-term power dynamics in the family. Cody's view on ownership seems to have been a sore spot before.
Yeah.
So Janelle's fear, completely understandable. And the fact that it apparently took lawyers or the threat of lawyers to get it sorted,
Right.
that tells you it wasn't just a friendly agreement. It was a tough negotiation, probably involving some legal pressure.
And getting that sorted, getting her legal share secured, that was the trigger for Janelle to finally, physically, pack up and leave Flagstaff. Like, that was the last barrier. Why was that specific piece so vital for her, do you think?
Well, it gave her both things, really, the practical ability and the psychological green light. Knowing her money was safe probably made the actual move feel less like a huge risk and more like a definite step toward her new independent life.
Right.
It took away a major potential fight down the road,
Yeah.
gave her a solid base to move forward from.
Which leads us right to what the source called the final nail.
Her actual move.
Yes. Her Instagram post about clearing out that last storage unit in Flagstaff, it just felt so final, symbolic.
Absolutely.
What details in her post caught your eye?
Oh, definitely the specifics. Talking about moving those little things and the last-minute evacuees,
Yeah.
that paints such a clear picture, doesn't it? Of just tying up every single loose end. It's not just about the big furniture, it's the small stuff, the sentimental things, the last bits. It feels like a complete clearing out, physically and likely emotionally too.
And the timing, too. She did this right after a family wedding in Salt Lake City and visiting Hunter and Dagus. It almost sounds like she was making the rounds first.
Yeah, like a sort of farewell tour.
Maybe. What could be the significance of doing those trips right before the final Flagstaff exit?
Could be seen as like a transition phase, a way to connect with family, maybe mentally brace yourself for this really big step. The wedding, whoever it was for, could have been a chance to see people, before fully launching into this next chapter.
Okay, but this family wedding, this is where the source points out some unanswered questions.
Right, the mystery wedding.
Yeah, they couldn't pin down any public engagement or marriage in the immediate Brown family that fits that time frame, like last week, apparently. So what are the possibilities here?
Well, this is where it gets kind of interesting. The source speculates maybe it was someone on Janelle's side of the family, not necessarily the main Brown group we know.
Oh, okay. That could fit.
Yeah, family wedding could definitely mean her own relatives. Since there haven't been any big announcements about Kody's kids getting married right then,
Right.
it seems most likely it was either someone in her extended family or, like the source suggested, maybe a really quiet, under-the-radar thing for someone we just don't know about.
Interesting. And then there's the point about Christine and David. They apparently weren't there helping with this final move,
Yeah, that stood out.
which is quite different from when Janelle moved to North Carolina initially, right? They were very visibly supportive then.
It is a notable contrast, yeah. The source brings up a good point. Maybe the cameras played a role last time?
Ah, for the show.
Possibly. It could be that their previous help was partly, for the storyline. And now, Christine's remarried, living in Utah, Janelle's setting up in North Carolina. Their day-to-day lives are just more separate.
Sure.
So while they probably still care deeply, the logistics, the need for that kind of hands-on help might just be different now. Geography plays a part.
Okay, so the source really hammers home the symbolic meaning of Janelle getting rid of these last few things, seeing it as the real end, the end of her connection to Flagstaff, and symbolically her old life with Kody. Why is clearing out even the little things seen as such a big deal?
Well, leaving stuff behind, even small things, can sometimes represent unresolved feelings. Or like you're keeping a door slightly open,
Yeah, I get that.
So by taking everything, Janelle's basically saying, nope, that chapter is fully closed. Physically, emotionally, all of it. The source even mentioned Kody wanting his stuff back from Mary.
Oh, yeah.
It just shows how physical items can really symbolize those relationship ties. And now, none of Janelle's kids live in Flagstaff either, right?
Right.
So the practical ties are gone too.
Looking forward then, Coyote Pass, it still needs to be sold.
Yep, that's the next step.
But now, with the ownership split 4 ways equally, it sounds like Janelle and Mary have way more say. Could they even sell their own plots separately if they wanted?
That's a huge shift in the power dynamic, absolutely. Having that equal ownership gives them the leverage they need to make sure their interests are actually represented when it sells.
Okay.
Now, listing it all together might still be the easiest logistically, but Janelle and Mara now have the power to negotiate the terms, the timing, what works for them. And Janelle managing her side of the sale from North Carolina, that just underlines her independence from Flagstaff even more.
Which makes you think about Kody and Robyn. They're there in Flagstaff just with their kids now. The source suggests maybe this isolation is what they kind of wanted all along.
It's a pretty provocative idea, isn't it?
Yeah. What makes them think that?
Well, maybe their relationship was always kind of leaning towards being more insular, just the two of them. And the other wives leaving just made that a reality.
A possible interpretation?
But the source also throws out there that maybe Kody and Robyn did hope Janelle would come back, especially while she still had that storage unit, that physical tie to Flagstaff.
Ah, okay.
Her clearing that out completely could feel like the absolute final word on that possibility.
And this ties into those conflicting views on polygamy the source mentioned.
Right.
Cody saying he's done with it, but Robyn apparently wants him to find more wives. It sounds conflicted.
It definitely points to a major disconnect between them on, well, their whole lifestyle philosophy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The source speculates Kody might have even considered reconciling with Janelle if she'd been willing to sort of fall back in line, fit his expectations, go back to that more traditional role maybe.
Wow.
Maybe he thought he could influence her like he apparently did in the past sometimes.
But Janelle's move, her final exit, the source says this could really hit Robyn's beliefs hard, specifically about their celestial kingdom. Can you unpack that a bit for people who aren't familiar?
Sure. So in their specific fundamentalist Mormon faith, the celestial kingdom is basically the highest level of heaven. And traditionally, achieving that, especially for men, is believed to involve plural marriage. Having multiple wives is part of attaining that highest glory.
Okay, got it.
So Janelle leaving, breaking those earthly bonds permanently, could, in theory, reduce Robyn's chances of reaching that highest kingdom with Kody, according to that specific belief system.
So the source is suggesting Janelle leaving is like a major spiritual blow for Robyn within their faith context. That adds, wow, another layer.
It's potentially huge, yeah. If Robyn strongly believes in that shared eternal future, Janelle's final departure could be, well, devastating for that specific belief.
Could that cause even more shifts then?
It's deeply personal, potentially faith-shaking for Robyn.
Uh-huh.
The source even wonders if this might push Robyn to look at other spiritual options, or maybe even reevaluate things with Kody if she feels his spiritual standing is compromised because the plural family fell apart.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping up, the source really focuses on Janelle's future, this idea of her totally detaching. They hope she eventually starts dating again. Why is that seen as so important for her, like ultimate freedom?
The thinking seems to be that maybe her not dating right now could be tied, maybe subconsciously, to those lingering beliefs about her spiritual connection to Kody, the eternal sealing aspect of their faith.
Ah, I see.
So for her to be completely free, the argument goes, she needs to cut all the ties, physical, emotional, and maybe even those deeper conceptual, spiritual ones.
Makes sense.
But overall, the feeling from the source is really positive for Janelle and for Christine and Mary too, rooting for them to build their independent lives.
Yeah.
And they acknowledge Janelle's been through so much, right? Leaving the marriage, the family shifts, and then the absolutely tragic loss of her son, Garrison.
Such heartbreak.
Yeah. And the source even suggests maybe holding on to those things in Flagstaff was partly tied to memories of Garrison too. But the main message is clear. Janelle deserves happiness, a future free from all that past baggage.
Absolutely. And one last quick point. The source wondered if this move was filmed.
Right, for the show.
And what that means for sister wives going forward. It does make you wonder how much we'll actually see of these huge life changes on screen now.
It really does. The fact she announced it on Instagram first, not just through the show, might signal a change in how these stories get told and, yeah, what the future of the show itself looks like.
So pulling it all together, it really feels like Janelle Brown has taken this massive, probably final step away from her marriage to Kody.
Definitely.
Getting Coyote Pass sorted gave her the foundation, the security, and leaving Flagstaff, clearing everything out, that just feels incredibly symbolic, a real severing of ties.
Absolutely. And hopefully you, our listener, have a much richer sense now of just how many layers there are to this, the personal side, the financial stuff, even these potential spiritual ripples. It's complex.
It really is. Far-reaching consequences for everyone involved. And just to leave you with something to think about, we've touched on independence, how relationships change after big upheavals, and that tangle between personal beliefs and, well, life happening. Janelle's journey is such a powerful example of what moving on can actually look like. What does it truly take to untangle yourself from a past that was so deeply interwoven and build something new, totally on your own terms? Definitely something worth pondering.